The Christmas Story, Part 5. So, Jesus was circumcised when he was 8 days old, which is Jewish custom and tradition. And then on the 40th day, you're meant to be, as the firstborn child, taken to the temple for purification. The temple was in Jerusalem, and we read about this in Luke 2:22 through 35. Mary and Joseph likely stayed in Bethlehem until Jesus was ready to be taken to the temple, and then went back to Jerusalem on their way back to Nazareth. At the temple, a man named Simeon, who is well advanced in years, had been told by God that he would not die till he saw the Messiah, and it's recorded in Luke that when he saw the child, that he knew that he could then go in peace and die in peace because he had seen God's chosen one. In verse 36 of Luke chapter 2, we also read about a prophetess named Anna. Like Simeon, she is well advanced in years. And when Jesus was presented there as a baby, she began to speak of him as the one who would bring redemption to Jerusalem. For some reason, she seems to get ignored and left out of a lot of our tellings of the Christmas story, but she shouldn't. I think that in the same sense that Simeon is important to the story, so is Anna. After they have presented Jesus for this purification ritual, they then leave back to the region of Galilee and to the city of Nazareth. And in Luke chapter 2, verse 40, it says, "And the child grew and became strong, filled with wisdom, and the favor of God was upon him." And this is where the birth story of Christ ends in the book of Luke. The story is then picked up in Matthew chapter 2, where we get to hear about the wise men, the three kings or the magi. We'll get to that. So in Matthew chapter 2, it says, "Now after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of King Herod, behold, wise men or magi from the east came to Jerusalem, saying, Where is he who has been born King of the Jews? They had been following the star and came to worship Jesus. When Herod got news of this, he asked where was this child born. He saw this as a threat to his kingdom, which is not surprising. In fact, the Herodian Empire, Herod and his children, did a lot of even family murder to sort of hold their positions in power. So after Herod heard of this, he summoned the wise men to come to him. He wanted to know exactly where the star was and when it appeared. And Herod tells them, when you found the child, bring him to me so that I may worship him too. But the wise men are pretty wise, so they know he's lying. When they made it to Christ, he was already back at his home in Nazareth as a young child. Notice that the story doesn't actually call them kings, and it also doesn't refer to how many of them there are. There's no number given. We simply assume there's three because there's three gifts. They offered Jesus gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Gold is something you would give a king. Frankincense is something that you would have if you're a priest. And myrrh is something that's used in embalming. We believe these gifts are meant to signify the kingly role and the priestly role of Jesus, as well as to foreshadow his coming death on the cross. Instead of going back to Herod, the Magi take off and go the opposite direction. More in Part 6.